Welcome to the Golden Hour, the podcast community where moms and moms-to-be hear stories from other mothers and top experts in the pregnancy and postpartum care field. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. You can also find us at goldenhour.fm on Instagram for comments and questions. Welcome to today's episode of The Golden Hour. I'm your host, Dr. O, and I am joined by Lisa Schultz. Lisa is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach based in LA, up in the beautiful hills, as we just discussed in the pre-show. You can see this very tropical background that's happening right now if you're watching via video. And she began her career in the wellness industry in 2006, but her approach to wellness changed after a near-death experience in 2011. Following years of surgeries and chronic pain, Lisa took healing into her own hands, discovering natural methods to restore her body and her mind. She later worked as a wellness director at a physical therapy clinic in Santa Monica, helping patients reduce inflammation through lifestyle changes. Now she's bringing her expertise to a wider audience with the Verdura Method, her online nutrition course. Lisa lives in Los Angeles with her husband, Kyle, and their two children, Margot and Clay. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you because I've had the honor of having many guests on the show so far, but we haven't really had the opportunity to talk about nutrition and exercise and how that influences pregnancy and postpartum and beyond when it comes to women's wellness. So not only do I have you on for that expertise, but also for the richness of your own personal story, your own personal journey. I think that so many times in not only my own personal story and my own life, let alone the guests I've had on the show so far, is it's our personal journeys that have led us to the way that we serve and the way that we give back. And it's just so informative and to me, even more inspirational. So we have a lot to chat about, Lisa, and I'm excited to get started.
Yes, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah. So let's start with what your pregnancy experience was. I think when you and I got to kind of get to know each other before recording, you shared with me that you had two very unique pregnancy and postpartum experiences. And so, yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, let's dive into it. So when I had two separate pregnancy experiences, I loved it because I felt like it gave me so much more understanding for my job. So then when I worked with mothers or women that were about to be pregnant and they had all these ideas of what it would be like, I could say, we're not sure yet. I went into my very first pregnancy as a total birth nerd. Like I told you, I was reading books on pregnancy, listening to birth podcasts, even before we talked about getting pregnant. I just loved the idea of learning about the female body in that way. I was pre and postpartum certified as a trainer, and I was already sort of in that realm. And so when it came time to learn about that next step for me, I wanted to know everything. I called a doula and I said, these are my goals for a pregnancy. I want, my birth to be this many hours. And I want, my goal is this and this. And she was like, I understand because of your job that you have goals and that's the word you're using. But for pregnancy and labor and delivery, we should use the word intention. And I like that she kind of put me in my place with that because I needed that mindset shift. I can't, that's something that you only have so much control over, really. I could do all the work behind it, but then my body kind of just has to take charge. And so with my first, I did end up having an amazing pregnancy. I was one of those women that loved being pregnant. I had first trimester nausea, but the rest of it was really easy and I felt good and I was taking care of myself, working out and eating really well. It was easy to do those things because I felt so well. I was going to a chiropractor and doing a lot of the preventative stuff that I learned about to help my body adjust as, my bones and everything was starting to change shape a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was very proactive in that. I chose to go a holistic route using a midwife at a birth center. I opted out of a hospital because of what you mentioned in the intro. I had this really traumatic car accident. So hospitals for me are very heavy and come with baggage. And I found a birth center that was right next to Cedars with a midwife that had 40 years of experience. So I felt like this was a good route for me. Everything was going well until my husband had to go away on business the day before I went into labor.
Ooh.
And I kind of dropped him off like, he's like, it's fine. I'll be back in 36 hours. I'm like, okay. But I was having back pain that whole day, which I now know was labor signs. And I was still working. I was training clients and I ended up canceling my clients that afternoon because, my back was just bothering me so much.
Yeah.
And now I know it was me going to labor. And I invited some girlfriends over and I was like, just hang out with me. Kyle's out of town. Ha ha ha. Make sure I don't go into labor. And what happened was they were over. I was like, this is, here's the little bassinet and whatever. And then all of a sudden my water broke. And I looked at my friends and I didn't say anything. I go, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And I go into the bathroom and I then ask for my phone and I text my midwife and I say, something's happening. And she's like, okay, mama, you're in labor. And I was one of those very rare first time moms whose water broke and then the contractions started immediately. It was like 60 to 90-second contractions, like 3 to 5 minutes apart right away.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was like the dates and the chiropractor or whatever. It could just be my body, right? It could be a combination of all that. But I did end up having my intentions or goals kind of come true, which was a very quick labor. My friends had to help me out, pack my bag. I had to teach my friend how to use a contraction timer. And I was dilated to 7 centimeters pretty quickly within a few hours. And then I went to the birth center. And we tried to get my husband home. He was in Oklahoma, but he had to change flights and it was just a crazy thing. And so my friends stayed with me and I gave birth to my daughter at 3 a.m. And my husband kind of was I think, switching planes in Denver when my friend texted him a picture of my daughter saying, congratulations, you have a daughter. I know. It was so crazy.
So wild. Do you mind if I ask how many weeks were you at that?
I was 8 days early. So I was just about to be 39 weeks.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And so your husband, Kyle, was like, okay, I think I could sneak in one more work trip. Cause we normally say that most first time moms usually say, oh, I often say a couple days past their due date. Most first time babies are a little fashionably late. So they come 40 weeks in 2 days, 40 weeks in 3 days, 40 weeks in 4 days. But your daughter, she was just eager to meet you and was just like, sorry, Dad, I got places to be. Here I come.
And man. Yes, and that's true to her personality today, which is she wakes us up every day fully dressed. Like, where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah, let's go. We got things to do, Mom and Dad. Well, that's wild. There's so many things in your story that I'd like to kind of highlight. One was what you mentioned earlier, and I know I mentioned in your intro, was that it sounds like your personal experience with hospitals and medical care in a really intense way kind of informed your decision to opt for a birthing center rather than kind of traditional, quote unquote, birth in the hospital. Can you tell us more about, if it's okay to kind of share, if it's not too triggering to relive, what happened with your accident and then, how that informs your approach to how it informs your approach to your pregnancies and even the care that you provide clients now?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It's a huge part of my story. I now to this day am very grateful for the car accident, similar to going through birth in different ways. It just made me so much better at my job. And so what happened was this was back in 2011. I was living in Chicago at the time. So I understand the urban lifestyle like we talked about. I lived at a very busy, bad intersection. It was just one of those really funky city intersections where cars are just coming from every which way. And I was just in the crosswalk with a bunch of people and I was a little bit lagging behind and a car came and hit me while I was walking. And it was very tough couple of years of some surgeries and rehabilitation. I was 27 at the time, moved back home with my parents, and I broke a bunch of bones. My femur was the biggest break and my hip bone. So with those broken bones, that also, if we were to jump forward to how I live my life, I have to live very intentionally with my wellness because of that car accident. So I'm already very preventative in how I live with my diet and my wellness in general. And so the experience in the hospital was really challenging for me. I was
Yeah.
awake for the whole thing. So I was in the ER going through that whole experience. And the job of the doctors is to take care of you. They're not trying to get to know you and talk to you, but you don't know any of these people, right?
Mm.
So I'm okay talking about it now. It took me years to get to that point where you're just
Oh,
like, you have this broken body, you're laying on a gurney, and there are people, touching you and trying to help you, but you don't know what's going on or who these people are. And so
yeah.
those memories were ingrained in my mind they still are. I remember them very well. But when it came down to the next biggest thing for my body to go through, which was birth, I wanted to be in a place where I felt really at peace. And my relationship with a
Mm.
hospital wasn't that. I know what it's like
Yeah.
to be in a hospital room. It's not peaceful, especially for me.
Yeah.
I may or may not have a great relationship with the doctor, but it can also depend on who's on call. And I just wanted to be a little bit more in control and have a more personalized experience. So that was why I went. And I did a bunch of interviews. I looked at different midwives, different birth centers. I'm very fortunate to live in Los Angeles, where it is a very wellness focused city. And there are those
Yeah.
options where I know where I'm from in Illinois and around the Midwest, you're not even, a lot of places can't even have birth centers.
Mm.
So I know that I was very lucky to have that experience, and it was the perfect decision for me. I don't put
Yeah.
my choices on anyone else. I think that it needs to be what you feel most comfortable with.
So well said, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, hearing your story, I can only imagine being in, I mean, physical pain. When you mentioned breaking your femur, let alone your hips, and the other things that you broke, but femur being a major bone, like the physical pain you're in, let alone just like the absolute fear of like, am I going to be okay? Like, what happened to me? Who are these people? I think of myself as a doctor who's been in those emergency situations where obviously as an obstetrician, I'm not dealing with like fractures per se, but in an emergency situation where mom's coming in, maybe she's bleeding, maybe we're worried about the baby, and I am introducing myself as quickly as I can, but I'm also troubleshooting so many things. And in that moment, my brain as a clinician is like, save this person's life, save this baby's life, like go, 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 go. But I can't sit down and find out your story and find out who you are
Right.
in the way that I need to, because in emergent situations, it's all about triage. But then having that pause for you, the patient, or thinking about that woman who is laying across from me, who's in that moment of like, talk about loss of control and the fear that and anxiety that comes with it, right? And what can we do as clinicians to kind of create a safe space of, yes, I'm triaging a bunch of really emergent, scary things, but I also want this person to be like held and seen and safe. It's not an easy task. And that's why I have a lot of respect for my colleagues who are trauma surgeons and ER doctors, and even for us OBs who triage a lot of emergencies. But I think more so than our own experience as clinicians, it's the experience as the patient, the client, who then goes forward to use that to inform the way they interact with healthcare going forward. I've had plenty of patients who've shared stories of trauma in different ways that affects the way that they approach their experiences with me. And though I feel that much more informed when I know someone's story, when I know their past. And so I think it's really empowering that you've been able to approach not only your pregnancies, but probably various aspects of your health with that story, and that you've been able to process and heal from it in the way that you need to. So you feel, I get a sense when I hear you, Lisa, even though we're just getting to know each other, of someone with immense strength. I can tell that you've used this to empower you and to give yourself a sense of agency that you pay for. And I think that's brilliant. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it comes with time, because the first
Mhm.
few years I didn't embody that strength. I really
Mm.
was struggling. So it comes from doing whatever work you need to do to get through something. But it does have to be a mindset shift. But for anyone who's been through some level of trauma, that's kind of, they now have a baseline for accidents or any sort of trauma. So then the next time something else happens to them, that's why the word trigger is always used, because it's triggering a bodily
Mm.
response from a past experience. And so
Yeah.
for me, when I went into wanting to go have a baby, I am such a researcher. So I feel best when I know everything. I
Yeah.
went into birth feeling like these are my intentions. I want to know everything about the human body, about the female body, about how my body is going to work. And then because of my car accident and having gone through it and come out the other side and having such peace, like life can get better after such trauma and hardship, I
Mhm.
also felt at peace with I understand how it works. I've done all that I can do. And now I will let things fall into place, whether it's
Mm,
your belief system in God or the universe. I felt really at peace with if my body does need extra help, if I do need to be transferred to Cedars, if my midwife can not do everything for me or the baby, I feel okay because I did my part. I understand what's going on. There are people there that are there to take care of me, and I need to now be in a collaboration with them. I did what I needed to
mm,
do. I was proactive about my
mm.
wellness. I kept myself healthy, and now I just kind of have to let the cards fall as they may. And that was my
Yeah.
mindset going into it.
Yeah, and this might be an impossible question to answer, but because you already alluded to that you are a researcher and you probably have a wealth of knowledge, not only from your own experience, but from what you've learned and what the career that you now have. What advice do you give for moms to to embody that idea of collaboration? And what I mean by that is, as an OBGYN, it's not too uncommon for me to meet different people, again, whether it's because of their past experience of trauma, which is lived, which is real, or because we are in a present day and age of being inundated with so much information from social media and the internet, where there's sometimes commentary about being anti hospital, anti OB doctor, or anti even medical providers. Some people who choose to, although very rarely, to do kind of unattended home births, right, which is a very extreme story, but basically living in fear and anxiety that something bad might happen to them if they don't have everything exactly the way they want. How do you what advice would you give someone to kind of be more accepting of this like collaborative mindset and having intentions rather than absolute needs on their birth plan or birth preferences?
Yeah, a couple things. First, I would validate
Okay.
the fear because I call myself an
Mm.
intrusive thought queen. Like I can go to worst case scenario in like 2 seconds, you know? I get it, especially from what I've been through. I see accidents happening in my brain, like,
Aw.
don't just be careful, you know? So I get it. And I would say, like, I understand. This is a very, you don't know what is about to happen.
Yeah.
I've had friends reach out to me and ask if I can almost be like a pseudo doula for them because I do love birth
Yeah.
so much and I've talked to them about it. And I had one friend say that she had to go into a hospital because she did have she had to be on some sort of medication around birth, but she wished she could do something like I had done. But because she
Mhm.
had to be on a certain medication when she went into labor,
Mhm.
she had to go in a hospital.
Mhm.
She was it was like her hand was forced in that situation.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
really had to help her change her mindset to realize that hospitals aren't bad. And I said something to her, which was, look, there are a group of nurses that are on call right now that are waiting for you. We don't know who they are. But
Yeah.
nurses are so
Yeah.
great. This is their job. They're so excited. You're gonna walk in, they're gonna introduce themselves. You know, it's not just like the OB and like this whole random hospital staff. There are gonna be people that are assigned to you. And there are also
Mhm.
a lot of nurses that understand birth preferences. So you just have to be very open with them about what you want. Some things the hospitals can do and some things that they can't. But you have to kind of change your mindset like hospitals are bad, OBs are, they're everything's so focused on C-sections and medications. That's not necessarily what it is, but it's just more knowing that there are people there and their job is to want to help you. So part of your job then is to let them help you in the way that you want to be helped.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I wish I could I wish I could like carry you around in my pocket, Lisa, because it is true. We're all here to help. And I recognize and I hope if there's other OBs listening that most of the I won't even say like resistance, but most of the opinions that are shared from our patients, our clients, actually come from genuine fear, sometimes just like lack of knowledge, not to anyone's own fault. And all those things are valid opportunity for us to show up and create a space for people to be heard and people to feel safe. And so I think for me is that reminder that yeah, it's not just like an OB like running in there and saying like C-section, C-section, C-section. Absolutely not. Like I'm maybe my practice is different, but we're all so motivated to lower our C-section rates. We're all so motivated to make sure that moms, if possible, can get vaginal deliveries if it's safe for them and their baby. And I think it's like reminding patients time and time again that OBs, midwives, so our group works with midwives, and midwives are like the experts in natural physiologic birth. Midwives are amazing. I always say I was trained by midwives, and it's true, let alone the nurses, the anesthesiologists, the OR techs. Like, there are all these amazing people in the hospital who are ready and excited to care for you, for your baby, for your family. And I think that the fact that you're out there already telling your friends, the people in your community, that is really helpful, but also acknowledging, I think birth centers are great. Like, I'm not an anti-birth center OB, because I do think that everyone is entitled to do their own research, to make an informed decision that that is best for them. As long as you're making an informed decision, who am I to question that? And I think birth centers offer an opportunity to birth in the way that people deserve and want. But it sounds like your birth center delivery experience, although poor Kyle. Kyle wasn't there. He was flying somewhere over the land. But would you say that your birth center experience kind of lived up to your intentions, your wishes?
It did. I loved my birth center. I love my midwife. She's the only one that could convince me to have another kid just so I could spend more time with her.
Aw, yeah.
I loved it. But to to continue on with the conversation that we had about like going in with fear and
Mm.
concerns into a hospital, that can also carry on. Like in my situation, when Kyle wasn't there, that
Oh,
there was
yeah.
like this sadness that just came, like
Mm.
this dark cloud that came over me in that moment. And my body was so ready to go and then just stalled. And I stayed at seven
Yeah.
centimeters for quite a while. And I think I was laboring. I wanted to be alone in the room. I had the playlist and I was like, this is what I want. And I want to, hang out on the birth ball and la, la, la. And I was having the worst back labor and I
Oh.
just wanted to be left alone. I was very sad that my husband wasn't there, even though my friend was there and I had this team that I was very familiar with in like my sanctuary of a place. There was the sadness there and my body felt that sadness and it just
Mm.
stalled the labor. And what happened was, and so I bring that up to show that like the emotions that we have, what sets us apart from animals, right, is our developed frontal lobe, right? And
Yeah.
when that starts going overboard with these fears and concerns, and we're being rushed to the hospital or the birth center under these conditions that make us feel so uncomfortable, the body is going
Mm.
to respond and tighten up from that. And it happened to me,
Mm.
and I get it.
Mhm. Mhm. What advice would you give then to help someone, like, loosen up, if you will, right? Like, there's times when we naturally suddenly are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm about to have a baby. Am I ready for this?" Or whatever fears come in the mind, or, "Hey, my support person who I really want, my husband is not here," or maybe I really wanted my mom there and she's still on her way over. Like, what are the ways that we can kind of help our body relax, if you kind of recognizing that mind-body connection?
I had a lot of birth affirmations. I'm such a
Mm.
believer in mindset. And I had a list, and when I first started, the contractions started coming on with a vengeance. I gave my girlfriend my phone. I had two with me in the beginning, and she was doing the contraction timer. And I was like, read me my birth contractions, my affirmations. And she's, reading them to me, which was like, your body was made to do this. Women have done this
Mm.
before and with less. And, I had a lot of my biggest what spoke to me the most is that we have been doing this since the beginning of time, and women with a
Yeah.
lot less were doing it back then. And we have come
Yes.
so far, and my body
Yeah.
knows exactly what to do. And I just needed to trust the moment. And it's also, that's
Mm.
our first experience as a parent. That's, getting that baby out in a safe way. Like, there are times when you are a parent and you just kind of have to grit and bear it and do the best thing and kind of just like push through. And to live in that anxiety isn't helping anyone. And you have to do what's best for
Mm.
your baby, which is like be a leader in that moment for you and your baby.
Mhm, mhm. So well said. I think, yeah, I often say as an OB that modern obstetrics is a recent intervention, right? And that for hundreds, thousands, excuse me, of years, human beings, Homo sapiens as we know it, were birthing and breastfeeding and creating family and community. And yes, we've come a long way in that majority of moms and babies survive. I will not minimize that there have been a lot of life-saving interventions, but then there is something so naturally inherent about pregnancy and labor and postpartum that I find as an OB, the longer and longer I've practiced, I find so humbling. It makes me feel so small in a good way of recognizing, goodness, we as a human species have existed for thousands of years and will continue because of of what our bodies are meant to do, what we as women are able and capable of doing. And if I can remind myself that as an obstetrician, but more importantly, remind my patients of that with empowering affirmations like that, I think is just so wonderful. So it sounds like, go ahead. I think you're going to say.
Well, I think it's also like asking like my doula initially asked me, like, who do you call to when you are in a moment where you need that reassurance? Are you
Hmm.
spiritual? And so like it's asking someone like, what are you called to? Like, do you pray? Do you like
Mm,
affirmations? Like, how do you find peace of mind? And it's sort of, having your patients like reflect on what has in the past helped them kind of flip that switch for them in other situations.
yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Lisa. As you've moved through your labor experience, how was postpartum for you, especially as a first time mom? It can be a roller coaster ride, to say the least. What was a ride like for you?
It was not good, I will say.
Mm,
I did
yeah,
so much experience with the prep and the pregnancy and the labor and
yeah,
delivery, and I would have what probably a lot of women would say is like the perfect experience for pregnancy and delivery because it was quick and I did it unmedicated and I had no interventions and my pregnancy was great. And then postpartum was just like, like just a
oh,
nosedive. Again, I
yeah,
feel grateful that I went through it so then I can help other women. I I also tell my friends that go through birth and everything, like from start to end, from the fertility through the postpartum, there are so
yeah,
many things and nothing will be perfect. You have to do the fertility and the pregnancy and then the labor and the delivery and the postpartum and the milk and the healing. And some of it is going to be great and some of it is going to be hard. And, everyone kind of has their thing. And for me, the postpartum was
yeah.
the hardest. Kyle and I struggled with that dynamic because he missed the birth and he came home and he kind of just came home and there was a baby in the bed. And I felt like he kind of needed to see like kind of how it got there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but, we don't have family here. We didn't have any
Mm,
help set up. I was the first one of my friends to have kids. So the village, I had my friends help me as much as they knew how, which was they were bringing me food. But what I really needed was more hands-on care for me and the baby.
yeah,
Just for breaks. I wasn't getting breaks. I was up doing laundry the next day or later that day. Um, there was not really downtime. I did not know how to get that baby to sleep. I was breastfeeding on demand. The milk was very painful when it came in. That lasted a while. The latching was painful for me. So that lasted a few months. And
yeah,
it definitely set up my postpartum in that first year pretty rocky, mostly because of the sleep deprivation.
yeah,
It was now that I see it as like a huge learning experience, and we did it very differently for our second.
yeah,
But the first one, when I see moms, new moms, I'm like, "How are you?" And when they're like, "I feel great," I'm like, "Great. I am so happy." Because the last thing we need is one more miserable mom in the world, right? So it's not like I want
mm,
everyone to have a miserable experience. When I do
yeah,
meet a mom that is sleep deprived, I'm like, "I am so sorry. Let me know if you need any resources." I'm not going to tell them anything, but I will let them
yeah.
know that I can give them resources if they do need it.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, of course, we don't want every mom to be miserable, but so much of this conversation, why I have the honor of interviewing on this podcast and why this podcast even was created, is to normalize a postpartum experience. And that, for me as an OB, I have the honor, just like you said, to care for women across the entire health trajectory, specifically the spectrum of your reproductive life and reproductive health from preconception through postpartum, and recognizing that of that spectrum, each moment has its difficulties. Like preconception can be really hard for someone. Pregnancy can be really hard. Postpartum can be really hard. All of them can be really hard. But for me as an OB, it felt like postpartum was where my skill set and my resources as an OB was limited because I'm not a lactation specialist. I'm not a PT specialist. I'm not a mental health specialist, let alone the fact that I don't know how it worked with you and your midwife. Although I know oftentimes when you have your own personal midwife, you get a lot more postpartum care, which is great. But for me, I get 2 visits only per person, and those visits are 20 minutes, which 20 minutes for like all the things that you just alluded to, that's not enough time to talk about it, to figure out kind of what resources and support that you need. And so I'm happy that we're here talking today to kind of recognize how freaking hard postpartum is, that 4th trimester is one of the biggest emotional mental, physical shifts that you can go through, let alone the sleep exhaustion. And so I think, Lisa, you have such a growth mindset, which I love. Like, again, I love these podcasts because I'm like, I don't really know you, but I'm getting to know you in a short period of time where you constantly are like, well, that was a learning opportunity for me and I did it differently the next time. And so I love that, the fact that you are so naturally active in terms of saying, okay, well, that was really hard. What can I learn and how can I use that to inform the way I support my clients, let alone myself? Which is a nice segue to, so baby number two. So I'd like to take a moment to tell you this is my passion project based on years of experience as an OB/GYN doctor. I aim to empower moms and moms-to-be and those in the pregnancy and postpartum care space. If you appreciate what I do, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so it can reach more people like you. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. If you have any requests, suggestions, or questions for future episodes, please email me at hello@goldenhour.fm or leave us a comment at goldenhour.fm on Instagram. I would love to hear not only about that pregnancy, maybe birth experience, but even more so how you utilize your experience postpartum to inform the way that you found support with the second pregnancy.
Yeah. And I think if we're being totally candid about this experience, finances have a really big part of it for women.
Yes.
And I don't think that's really talked about enough because if you do not have family support and you do not have finances to hire support, then women are really left alone. And that is unfortunately what happens in America. It's no secret. We hear about how it is in Norway, in other countries, in Germany, and parental leave. And, we hear about it. And what happened was the first time, the reason why Kyle missed the birth is because he was going on a job interview. And that was his final job interview. And what happened was he's in finance. And after he missed and went for that final interview with the firm, they actually told him that they were pausing the search and he didn't get hired. So that very first year, or the first 4 months that we had our newborn, neither of us were working. I worked for myself, so I didn't have any maternity leave. And now my husband didn't have a job. So we were living off of savings with a newborn, with our first time child, with no family in town, right? So finances, when people, I'm not talking to people about their finances. That's not my job. If I could get one thing across to women that want to have a baby, I would say, make sure you have a good amount of savings and think about what you might need. Because what did happen is that when we wanted to maybe have a second kid, my husband more so was like, let's have another. And I'm like, whoa, we're spending all of our money on all of the help, just so you know, because because you work in finance, you're not around. This is on me. I need a nanny. I need a night nurse. I want food delivery. I want all the things, because now we were in a better place financially. And I was done being a martyr about the whole thing. And I did kind of have that mindset in the beginning, like, I'll do an unmedicated birth and I don't need any help and it's going to be fine. And I can work with the baby on my lap, which I did with my daughter. I would try to take clients during her nap times. I was doing all the martyr things. With my second, I was like, I want all of the help and I want to spend all of the money. And we are going to make this an investment in my mental health. And so when we conceived our second, my son, it was also a completely different pregnancy. I was nauseous the entire time. I did not feel good. I also had a toddler. I did no pregnancy care. I didn't go see a chiropractor. I didn't have the time. I was sick on the couch or taking care of my daughter. So everything was, again, it's kind of like that funny shift. Like, I didn't feel good the whole time, but I had a night nurse this time around, right?
Yeah.
So with going into my second, I really just decided with my husband, we made the conscious choice to make it an investment in our family's mental health, that we would be a stronger team if we were both sleeping. And so we spent money and we chose to invest our money in those first 3 months and making sure that we had daytime help, part-time, and also some night help as well, because we don't have family that lives here. There was no one, we had no grandmas coming over and like picking up the baby while she mopped the floor. Like, we didn't have that.
Yeah. I mean, Lisa, I appreciate you so much because this is real. This conversation is so real, and that finances play a huge part and the postpartum support that people can have. And it's privilege. And I say this as a woman of color who decidedly became an OBGYN to care for women of all sorts, but especially health disparities, and recognizing that postpartum care is its own health disparity, right? That I have the honor of caring for and therefore working in communities of a lot of privilege. But in order to afford that night nurse, in order to afford that lactation specialist, in order to afford that pelvic PT, all those things are at a cost. And so I always find myself grappling with my own privilege as a OBGYN doctor, but also recognizing there's so many other women who don't have the village that you alluded to, right? That if unless you have family or really, really close friends nearby, you're oftentimes alone. Either there's plenty of moms who are single moms either by choice or by circumstance, or just alone with your partner, but it's too much work for two. And even if you have friends and family around, you mentioned you had, at least for your first pregnancy, you had friends around, but they were busy too. They didn't necessarily know how they can help or have the time. It's just not enough support. And I think so much of this podcast, one of the general themes I would say has been going back to the village, that's actually what we all need. That's what we all were as humans. We're meant to exist in this community of aunties and sisters and cousins and friends and neighbors. We're all supposed to kind of grow in community with one another, but just how society has naturally developed over time as we become more individualistic, we're more isolated, we're more siloed, which means in order to recreate the village, we have to spend financial means. And I acknowledge the privilege that my husband and I, Lisa, you don't know this, and probably a lot of guests listening don't know this, or audience members don't know this, but my husband and I still haven't started a family yet and are still very ambivalent about it. And some of our ambivalence is the finances of recognizing we both believe in our mental health. We both really want to believe in our partnership and want that to survive and endure the really hard first year or 2 or 3 or 10, and recognize that the privilege of hiring a night nurse or a postpartum doula or different various postpartum support people is going to be a financial cost, and what that means and what does it mean to make that investment. And so I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your candor, because I think it is really important to put out the dollar signs. I talk to my girlfriends about it all the time, about how much it costs to get the support that anyone deserves. It's not selfish at all. It's actually selfless to invest in yourself in order for you to have more energy and more time to give out to everyone else in your family, your newborn, your toddler, your husband. It starts with you first. Always starts with you as that postpartum mother. That's how I feel.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. And I have stigmas about help. I was carrying stigmas about
Yeah.
nannies and night nurses before I was in that situation. I didn't grow up with nannies. I didn't grow up with unlimited wealth in my family. We weren't in a bad place necessarily, but I wasn't surrounded by that. And I live in Los Angeles, where nannies are just a part of,
Yeah.
they're like, everyone has a nanny, everyone has a dog. Like, it's just, they're part of the family. And I thought, no, I don't need that. I can do it all myself. I don't need a nanny. I will be the first to say I was judgmental about the hired help. And I went through it and I thought, I hope everybody at some point can have a nanny, because look, if that nanny is there to make that woman happier and healthier so that she can go work out, so she can go to her job, so she can maybe just go get her nails done, then good. Because when women are happier, when we are working, statistics show that we give back the most to a society. So we should all be promoting that we can get to a place where financially we can have that help so that we can give back to society. It's a very full circle thing. The more that women are not getting the help and that can't go back to the workplace because we can't afford the help and don't have that support in the home, so many women can't even go back to their job because it makes more sense for them financially to stay in the house. That's a whole different conversation. So, the finances are a big part. So I went from being very judgmental about hired help to more like, man, like I want to be Oprah one day and not open a school, but get everyone a nanny.
You got a nanny, you got a nanny, you got a nanny. 100%, girl. That's a dream. Let's do it together. No, but I really appreciate you, because I I'm very solution oriented. And so I think I went into medicine to be a healer, to help people to think about big problems and figure out how to solve it. And so even hearing you, I think about really, yeah, the real dream is to figure out a healthcare system that somehow covers postpartum support for pretty much everyone, that it isn't kind of an added extra, or only people with really good insurance can get coverage for lactation consultant or pelvic PT. Is there a way that early child care is built into your insurance plan? Because that is part of supporting the whole person holistically, that whole person who does need to get back to work, or not even need to, wants to get back to work, but on their own timeline when they feel emotionally and mentally ready. And so in order to invest in that whole person, it's not just like lab tests and prenatal pills and all these things that are kind of more traditionally done medically. So it's actually the resources that person needs to recoup and recover postpartum. I have really good friends who live abroad, who've had their kiddos abroad in Finland and raised kids in Germany, and have a lot of conversations about, as you alluded to, how things are so different in Nordic and Scandinavian countries, let alone European countries, because there is an emphasis and an appreciation of a family, I think, and understanding that parental leave is more than just like 6 weeks, maybe 3 months if you're lucky. There's so much more. And so yeah, I dream a big dream of like giving everyone nannies or figuring a way that our healthcare system can appreciate an investment, the ultimate investment is investing in postpartum care, because it will have downstream positive influences on not only the mom, but that baby and that toddler and that husband and anyone else in that community. Really, I think I'm biased, but I really do think that women, moms tend to be like, are the bedrock, are the foundation of so many of the communities that they're a part of. And we just got to put more time and effort into those people.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, to continue our candid conversation, like help doesn't even solve all the problems. Like I had the
Hmm.
help and I still was very much affected by the postpartum journey emotionally.
Yeah.
I was very much, even though I was having help with the sleep, I was so anxious about sleep in general. I remember when my son was born and I brought him home and it was like a couple days later and I did all the wake windows and I was so focused and I laid him in the bassinet and I'm like, okay, sleep. And he like didn't close his eyes and I was so emotional. I just dropped to the floor in
Oh,
fetal position and just started crying because he was
Lisa.
fine. He was just looking up
Yeah.
like, hi,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to sleep right now, but I'm good, like do your thing. But I
Yeah.
couldn't because I was so obsessed with the sleep from my first child that I was so
Uh,
mentally unwell with the hormonal dips and everything postpartum and then it was really more like a reminder, like, exactly, this is why I can't be doing this alone right now. Like, it
yeah.
was just more
Yeah.
like, I shouldn't be alone in this. This is not something that just magically gets better even when you do have the help. Like, there's so
Yeah.
much emotion that a woman goes through during that postpartum period, which I say is an entire year. It's a full
Yeah.
year, really until you're
And
done
sometimes
breastfeeding.
longer.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, everything is still going on. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not just like a 6 or 12 week situation postpartum.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lisa, because I feel like with your honesty, it helps with my overall platform of just like having other women recognize they're not alone and feeling like things that you've said. I have heard clients share time and time again in my one-on-one appointments with them. And I want people to not feel alone. I don't want people to feel like it's just me. No, postpartum is real. Postpartum, as you said, is at least a year, if not more. Not only the ups and downs of your hormones. I was listening to something earlier today that said that hormonally pregnancy and postpartum is one of the biggest hormonal shifts that you've had since adolescence, since we started getting our periods and getting pimples, and we all remember how like emotionally crazy we were at that moment. Fast forward, you have this huge emotional journey that is matrescence, plus the fact that you have a newborn who's very appropriately demanding and needs so much support. And so it's just recognizing what you just said, that even when you had tons of support, even though you and Kyle had this like ultimate plan of like, okay, we're going to do it better this time, we're going to invest in us and sleep and all this stuff, you still have had an emotional breakdown, because it is hard, girl. It is so hard. And no, like really, I just want people to know that, and not to create fear. It is not, the fear is not the goal of these conversations. It's just to say, hey, you are not alone. This is hard work. You should be proud of yourself and you will get through this. And kind of conversations like this, I think, are just normalizing. And sometimes you just need to know that to be able to weather the storm.
Yeah, the thing about fear is so interesting because I think that's why people historically we're not opening up about miscarriages and about
Mm,
the postpartum hardships because we feel like we're scaring all these women.
mhm,
But
mhm,
there can be a mindset shift, and my mindset
mhm.
shift was basically when I was going through my first pregnancy and I read all the books. My mindset was when I read Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I
Yeah,
felt like the more I knew about other women's experiences, the more equipped I was. So then my body started acting a certain way. I could be like, okay, this is normal, not scary. Right. So, one
mhm,
of the side effects of transitioning to active labor is throwing up. That might scare women because nobody likes to throw up. Right.
yeah.
But when I started throwing up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm transitioning. I'm getting closer." It is a
Yeah,
mindset
yeah.
shift. Like I can think of it as gross and scary and, "Oh my gosh, my body is doing something that feels really uncomfortable." Or I could be like, "My baby is giving me a sign that my baby and my body are giving me signs that it's working, it's happening, it's doing what it needs to do to prep my body for the baby to arrive, and it's getting closer every minute."
Mm.
So when we have these conversations about the hormonal dips and the meltdown, the breakdowns, our own meltdowns, not the babies,
Yeah, yeah.
the marital arguments and the financial strain, rather than looking at it as fear, we can look at it like, okay, I know that that is a normal thing that can happen, and maybe I
Yeah,
can have more
yeah.
open conversations with my husband, with my in-laws, with people in my life, to know like these are some things that I know might happen. I'd love to get some things in place, or it's just giving us more tools. The more we talk about it, rather than thinking of it as scary or more fear based, we can just think of these
Yeah.
conversations as one more tool to help us get some things in line to prepare us a little more. And also just giving us that grace that when it does happen, we know that, like you said,
Mm.
we're not alone in this. And this is something that can happen sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, so well said. Yet again, Lisa. No, giving yourself grace is huge. When I actually was thinking of the idea of this podcast, I was thinking of that as a title, but it was too long. Giving yourself grace, because that's so much of, again, postpartum is being kind to yourself, loving yourself, and saying like, this is hard, but it's okay. And like I will figure this out, and I will lean on the people in my community to help me figure this out. Same for pregnancy, same for trying to conceive, same for honestly everything in our lives. Is my motto for most of the things in my life is like, give yourself grace, Anna. Give yourself grace, Dr. O. Like, things are okay, like things are really hard, or you messed that thing up, or you fought with your husband about that stupid petty thing, and what were you doing? Just give yourself grace, right? I think we all should just give ourselves a little space, a little forgiveness. Man, Lisa, we've talked so much about your rich pregnancy and postpartum experiences and how you've learned from them and how you continue to hopefully kind of inspire people from what you've learned. I want to learn about how that your either your personal experience with your pregnancies, let alone that really horrific car crash you went through, informs your work as a wellness like a wellness champion. So nutrition and I think you also said you do a lot of personal training. What does that look like in terms of how you serve your clients now, and specifically when we think about pregnancy and postpartum?
Yeah, I love that term, wellness champion. I feel like I've never
Yeah.
heard that before. I want to use it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, girl. You're a wellness champion.
yeah, and championing other people, right? To like go on their
Yes.
wellness
Yes,
journey.
yes. Yes.
A lot of ways. Well, what's interesting is, I had one pregnancy where I could do all the food stuff and be on top of it.
Mhm.
And with that, I live my life is very anti-inflammatory. I have to with my injuries, but because of that, because of the way I live, I'm pain-free and on zero medication. So I was able to
Yeah.
really get off all the meds that I had to be on and heal my injuries. And so I was able to stick to all of that with the first pregnancy because I felt so good. The second pregnancy, I couldn't eat anything. Nothing helped my nausea. Nothing was they're like,
Mm.
try the wristbands and try this. And I
Yeah.
was just like, no, nothing is helping. And so a lot of women, come to me and I'm trying to eat healthy for pregnancy, but I'm nauseous or I'm this. And I remind clients that we have stores. It's not like we miss a day of protein and poof, no more protein in the body.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works, right? The body
Yeah.
has stores of nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients. So I remind clients all the time, well, it's going to be okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And over the course of your life, your body has been storing nutrients. And so when you are pregnant, some goes to the baby and some goes to you. And if you're nauseous or if you're not eating perfectly, it's okay because your body is so resilient and the body is incredible. It has ways to handle all different situations. I often use examples of like horrific scenarios like starving
Mm.
children in different countries or the
Mhm.
Holocaust. And I say, like, look, these people are able to endure years of famine and they are still alive. Like, obviously, that is an
Mhm.
extreme case, but I share that with you so that you don't fear that if you're not getting in all the perfect what I eat in a day wellness, Instagram meals, like you're not
Oh, yeah.
failing, because I think that we put that pressure on ourselves. And I say, like,
Agreed.
it takes a lot for a body to really lose everything. I mean, it takes extreme cases of malnutrition to really starve a body of nutrients. And so I share
Mhm.
that so that people can kind of like take a sigh of relief so that they can release some of that pressure on them because I think social media builds it up like perfect pregnancies. This is what you need to eat in a day. And here's the best vitamins. Like, look, just eat what you can eat, like depending on your job and how many kids you have. Like, you're probably just trying to fit something in. Like, try to take
Yeah.
your vitamins if you can, get a good probiotic to help you poop a little bit because we get constipated when we're pregnant and you're going to be okay. I kind of just try to reassure. I did the best I could, but to be honest, with my second pregnancy, all I wanted was salt and vinegar chips. And I just was like, this helps my nausea. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's such a specific like flavor of chips. I love it. That's perfect. But no, I think like Lisa, you and I are kindred spirits in not only giving yourself grace, but just like trying to counter the social media pressure of like, this is exactly what you need to do. And you have to do it this exact way for everything to be perfect. No, that's not how it works. And so I love that that's how you approach your conversations with your clients. That's what I try to bring in when I'm meeting patients in the clinic room as well. But I also, to be frank, recognize that you as a wellness champion, we're gonna claim that term now, went through a lot of schooling to be able to support your clients in that way and help them become their own champions in their wellness and their health. And in medical training, we don't learn about nutrition in the way that people think that we do. We kind of learn very basics, let alone in OBGYN training, we're learning a lot of really important, surgeries and how to triage emergencies and all this stuff, but we're not having like a nutrition course. If you can kind of give like nutrition 101 for kind of basic goals that you would have for your pregnant clients. Again, acknowledging there's a lot of pressures on social media and we're trying to
Yeah.
counter that. But if you kind of helped pare things down for them, saying, hey, this is what you should be trying to do as best as you can. And it's okay if you miss a day or two here. Like,
Yeah.
how would you kind of pare that down?
So, the most important thing when you're pregnant is water. Hydration can help so many pregnancy symptoms. So, cramps, leg achiness,
Hmm.
constipation, a lot of these things come from dehydration. And women who are pregnant need a liter more of water than regular women. So you have to be on top of your water. And this is the number one thing, even for my clients. People just forget about it or they're having
Yeah,
other stuff and nothing else is going to help unless you get in minimum 2 to 3 liters of water every day. And
exactly.
especially also when you're breastfeeding and postpartum, you
Hmm.
need to be on top of your water. So that's number one. The second thing I would say is the same things hold true as when you are not pregnant or postpartum, which is really just trying to get in those micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals that come in the form
Mm.
of lots of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and
Mm.
vegetables are also very hydrating. So you're adding more extra hydration to your body that way. I always tell clients to look for the most amount of color on a menu or on your plate. And just the more color you add onto your plate, the more colorful you'll feel, the more vibrant you'll feel. And to to just try to get in, a good variety of fruits and vegetables every day. And then the other thing is making sure that I know there's so much emphasis on protein, which is really important.
Mhm.
Carbohydrates are also a macronutrient, which means it's essential. So getting in the
Mhm.
best kind of carbohydrates like oats, which are also good for milk supply, um, whole grains, sweet potatoes, brown rice, lots of legumes. Those are also going to add a lot of fiber and energy because we feel so lethargic and exhausted when we're pregnant. Our body
Mhm.
is working really hard.
It
Carbohydrates
is.
are for energy. Think about carb loading, what marathoners do, right? They carb load before
Yeah.
a marathon. Pregnancy is going to be the longest marathon you'll ever
It
do.
is the ultimate it's an ultra marathon. It
Yeah.
actually is. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So making sure that it's not just protein based, but you're really getting in that energy food in the way of high fiber carbohydrates.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. No, I very selfishly do these podcasts so I can learn, and so it's nice because I'm literally making my checkbox in my head of like, okay, this is what I'm going to tell my patients and make sure they have that. And you alluded to a couple of things postpartum, but yeah, if you had like your postpartum top 3 pieces of advice, I know you mentioned hydration is really important for breastfeeding. Anything else postpartum that you highlight?
Yeah. So what's interesting about postpartum, I'll share that when I was pregnant with my first, I gained like a normal amount of weight. And it wasn't until I was postpartum that I gained weight. And that came from stress and lack of sleep. And
Mm,
so many women are focused on getting their body back. And I want to share again, changing the mindset around it and reframing that, if we focus on weight, we're doing ourselves a disservice because the weight can also continue to come on or fluctuate while we are postpartum because there are hunger hormones that can be stimulated from stress and lack of sleep. And so when we are overly stressed and when we are not sleeping, our body is going to feel more hungry. Think about
mm.
like when you're studying in the library, when you're in school.
I remember med school, man. Oh, yeah.
How
So I'm
hungry
like,
were
"Why
you?
why am I so hungry all the time? It's midnight. Why am I okay, well, I guess I have to." So stressed. I was so stressed.
So stressed, and the brain is working hard. People think of fuel as for
Yeah.
activity, and the brain actually uses fuel as well. And the brain's main source of fuel is carbohydrates. And so there's a reason why women who are postpartum are craving carbs and comfort food and are hungry all the time because
Mm.
the brain is working overtime. If you're breastfeeding and you're producing milk, you're extra hungry. If you're not sleeping, you're extra hungry, and just the natural stress. So I share that to give just a realistic idea of why you might be gaining weight postpartum, why you still might be extra hungry postpartum, why you might be having cravings. And again, it like really comes down to giving yourself grace. This is a period of time. I encourage clients to get a hold of their nutrition before they want to have kids and learn about it
Mm.
because learning to cook when you have a baby is just not the time. It's just
Yeah.
not the time.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, get that meal delivery service, order in Postmates, whatever you got to do. It takes some time. And again, it's kind of the same rules like the hydration, the quality of your food, and getting in a lot of fruits and vegetables. But if you are noticing that you're extra hungry, sweet potatoes, oats, oatmeal, the fiber in those can really help you feel more satisfied with the food that you're eating.
I really like that. One, I really like the fact that you helped, made me feel better about the stress eating that I spent like, I don't know, 10 plus of my life doing, but it's because your brain needs to be fueled and there are hormones being released. It all makes sense. But yeah, I think more seriously, it's about that like postpartum. I feel like I'm oftentimes countering that the idea of like the postpartum snap back like body, right? You see these so many images on social media of like, this is me, like, 9 months postpartum. This is me. Oh, sorry, 9 months pregnant, and this is me 3 months postpartum. And it's not real life. And that should not be the goal. And goodness, Lisa, I don't know how many times I see patients. And again, I say this out of deep care and wanting them to give themselves grace and give themselves space and just love themselves, where I'm seeing them for their postpartum check and they're like, okay, so when is this all going to go away? And I'm like, oh, it's going to take time and it's okay and it might not fully go. I explain the different variations that the body's going to go through, but there's this expectation of baby out, where's me again? And so it's not only just like the weight, but it's also the self-imagery, right? We change as women so drastically in a beautiful, amazing way. For some of us, our physique was a part of our identity. How do you support people through that as well?
Gosh, it is so hard. And I know that my confidence with it comes because I'm so educated in the area that I understand the human
Yeah.
body so well. So I didn't put that pressure on myself when I had my daughter and I had gained weight and none of my clothes fit for. I actually told myself and all my clients, I'm like, I'm not even going to try to work out till I'm 6 months or so until I'm sleeping, because if I'm not sleeping, I'm not going to put that stress on my body. I'll take walks. Maybe I'll do a little
Yeah.
yoga at home, but I knew that the more stress I put on my body from forcing workouts when I wasn't sleeping was going to
Yeah.
make my body more sick.
Yeah.
And I told my clients that. And that meant that I was, heavier than I was for 9 months postpartum. And but I had that knowledge to know, like, I will get there. And this isn't the
Mhm.
time to worry about it.
Mhm.
I'm very obsessed with sleep in the best way, just in the sense that, like, that's when the body can heal. And when you are not
Yeah.
sleeping, you can't heal. So then to put yourself on like a strength training program and trying to fit into these pants, like, go to Target that has the cutest clothes and get yourself
Me
clothes
too.
that fit. And
Yeah.
don't try to get into your old clothes for a while. Just don't. Just don't put that
Yeah.
pressure on yourself. You are not the same person
Mhm.
you were before you had the baby. So go get yourself some new clothes because you are a new person. Go grab yourself a couple new
Yeah.
pairs of pants and, some cute tops that make you feel good, and then cross that bridge when you have that energy.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, no, one, Target, it's dangerous. My husband always makes fun of me because I go to Target to like get detergent. He's just like, why are there bags and bags? You were getting one thing. It's a very dangerous place. But it has, not to endorse Target as a store, but yes, like finding clothes at a reasonable cost that are comfortable and make you feel
Right.
good. And yeah, just saying that this is a temporary version of
Yeah.
you, but you're also, I had a client, not a client, a guest on a month ago who recognized that like this is also an evolved version of you. Like this is it's a beautiful version of yourself that is ever evolving. We're continuing to change. Life is dynamic. And this is you and your evolution. And how do we celebrate that? How do we champion that? Yeah. So I love that that's your approach with your clients. And I love that people get to hear you right now and get to hopefully um uh you know ingrain that in their own hearts and minds, because it's hard. It's a hard time where I feel like for me as an OB, I'm I'm up against, not to be combative, but I feel like we're up against a lot with social media and the internet these days. And so many times when I'm meeting people one on one, it's not only dealing with their own emotional pressures that we all put on ourselves, let alone these external extrinsic pressures. And that's why my hope is that this podcast and conversations like ours is going to help kind of cut through the noise and present kind of more realistic versions of loving ourselves.
Yeah, the thing about it's so interesting, like the clothing is such a big
Mm,
deal when we are postpartum. Like, it's
yeah,
fitting back in. Like putting on
yeah.
these old pants somehow validates our self-worth, right?
Mm,
And I'm always reminding my clients, like, your number on the scale is simply the gravitational pull against the earth. Like,
right.
why are we giving that so much validation, right? It's the
Yeah,
gravitational pull, and we step on the scale and it
yeah,
ruins our day.
yeah,
I had my daughter when I was 34, and then the pandemic hit when she was 1, so I was wearing sweatpants for like 2 years, right? I
yeah,
wasn't getting
yeah.
dressed. And then I got pregnant when she was 3, and then I went postpartum again for a couple of years. So the beginning to end of like being pregnant with my first to then being postpartum with my second was like maybe 5 years. I was
Yeah,
34 to almost 40. Like, at that
yeah,
point, my style is different. Why am I even looking in my closet at the same clothes when I am now a 40-year-old woman when I was 34 wearing clothes from when I was 28? Like, it's
yeah,
time now.
yeah,
Like, use it as an
yeah.
opportunity to refresh and to kind of own a new look that is comfort and ease that you feel good in. When my clients tell
Mm.
me that they have a pair of jeans from when they were 27 that they want to wear and they're now 42, I'm like, girl, like, this is for all of us. Like,
Yeah,
get a
it's
new pair of
yeah,
jeans.
yeah, yeah, agreed. There are definitely fashion trends that are coming in and out, but there's a lot of things that are just they're done and they're not coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're saying that from we laugh, but you're saying that from a place of love, of saying like, own this. Like this is a
Yeah.
chance to like revamp
Yes.
revamp your look, if you will.
Yeah, and like
Well, Lisa, go
when
ahead.
else are we like holding it's like these jeans like have so much like there's so much pressure on like jeans for some, we can discard shirts, but like pants, they have to fit into the pants.
I know. There's something about it's probably the waistband and how it fit on your thighs and your butt. Like there's an obsession that we have about like how the jeans fit, which is so different than tops. You're very right. But so much of this conversation has been again about normalizing and to me self-love and giving yourself grace and recognizing the champion within. You've given so much like words of wisdom and pearls from your own really intense and beautiful and lived experience. Anything else that you would like to share or any kind of further sage words of wisdom?
Just everyone's doing the best they can. And
Yeah.
I will say that I just want to share this because I didn't know about it when it was happening to me, but I was nauseous, not just with my second pregnancy, for the whole pregnancy, but I was nauseous after when I was postpartum until I got my period back 6
Oh,
months
yeah.
postpartum. And I had never heard of that happening. Everyone says the nausea goes away right away. So I think it's very rare when that happens, but I just needed to get my cycle back and then the nausea did go away. So that is something
Yeah.
very weird and random that happens. So like if you've ever heard of that or have a patient that says that definitely happened to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my first person I've talked to I definitely have had, sadly, moms who've had nausea throughout their whole pregnancies before, but, I've not had many, if at all, that've had it, postpartum. But again, this is why we're chatting. It's like to normalize the things that can happen because there's so much that's happening internally, hormonally, let alone physically, let alone mentally, that is oftentimes out of our control, but recognizing when things are safe and normal versus the things that, hey, like I should talk to my OB or my midwife about that. So it sounds like it was really crappy, nausea postpartum, 6 months postpartum, let alone all the other things we just spent the past hour talking about. But thank you, Lisa, for reminding whoever's listening, if they have that too, that it's okay and it will get better. It will get better. Well, Lisa, I really loved our time together. I think that I personally have walked away from this conversation feeling that much more validated by the ways that I show up for my patients and trying to kind of assure them that social media pressure is just that it's pressure and it's not real. But more importantly, as a woman to woman, that we just need to give ourselves more grace and love ourselves and not being too obsessed with jeans and letting them go, but everything else that you've shared. So I'm so, so grateful for your time and your wisdom and your lived experience. And yeah, I think it's been such a great episode. Anything else you'd like to share?
Thank you so much. This was so lovely. Yeah, I think that the biggest takeaway is things get better. They get better. And that you can do it. You have to be your own champion, and we are champions together. And we all have your back.
Yes. Perfect. And then really quick, if anyone, just give your own personal plug, if anyone wants to kind of find you, do you work with clients only in the LA area? And do you want to tell us more about the work that you do?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at It's Lisa Schultz. I work remote with anyone. A lot of my clients are elsewhere in the country and we can work remote together. I focus on nutrition, realistic nutrition, where we don't count calories. I help clients really tune into their body's needs, which is my favorite thing to do, and just help you have a better, happier, healthier relationship with food. It's my mission. And so no matter where you are in your journey of being a woman, we can always connect a little bit more to our body's needs by learning your body's own language. And that's what I teach. And so, yeah, anytime. I love working with women specifically, but anyone who needs help in that area.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, when the episode launches, we'll make sure we have your Instagram handle readily available. And yeah, a realistic approach to your body, to your wellness. That's the ultimate goal for all of us. So thank you again, Lisa. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. This was so nice.
Thank you very much for listening to The Golden Hour, the podcast community where moms and moms-to-be can hear stories from other mothers and learn from top experts in pregnancy and postpartum care. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so we can reach more people like you. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. If you have any requests, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, please email me at hello@goldenhour.fm or leave us a comment at goldenhour.fm on Instagram. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, stay golden.